find the truth like a genius, even if you're not one. Today is day 576, I believe, going live. So, this one's important because have you ever wondered why smart people sometimes make not the best or smartest decisions? Like how can someone with all the brains in the world still mess up simple things? I've always wondered that, right? And today I've been kind of thinking through, and I've been in Tai Lopez's 67-step program, just thinking about the different frameworks he shared, and I like some of them. I kind of bring them into my own world, and I put my own spin onto it because I wanted to make things as relevant for me, but also relevant for my kids. If I'm not able to explain things in a simple way that they can apply to their lives, then I failed, right? I haven't mastered the education that I've gotten. Because if I can't learn something unless I apply it. So this is a great framework for finding out about how to find the truth, right? Even when everyone around you is confused. And I think this is one of the biggest keys to building a life of fulfillment, love, health, wealth. And I'm going to try to use some simple stories, right? Simple examples so that even a fifth grader can teach and understand it, right? So let's talk about why finding truth matters more now than ever, than anything, right? I think in 50 years from now, and if I had a time machine and I can go teach one of my family members like a skill, what do I want them to have? And I think right now in the world that we have, I think finding out or learning and knowing how to find out what's true is probably the most important because right now we are being fed information from everywhere. I'm not talking about fake news. I'm not talking, it's about subliminal programming or reprogramming of our brains, especially when you just keep scrolling through your social media feed, right? I kind of think of it as if I were to explain this to a kid, imagine if you were playing a video game and you were holding a controller, but sometimes it's broken, right? So when you push up, sometimes it goes down. It just messes with you, right? Think about the first time you ever play with a Mac, and when you scroll up, it actually brings the page down. When you scroll down, it actually brings the pages up. It's weird. And in the game, right? If you can't even trust your controller, how can you possibly win the game? Same in life. If you can't figure out what's real, you're going to keep pushing the wrong buttons. So, truth is what's going to be the most important factor. So, let's talk about, all right, let's talk about what happens when you can't find the truth. And I'm just going to make up a story, right? Let's say I have a friend named Marcus. Marcus loved fitness. He was super fit. He always had six pack abs. He's winning races. He's winning the school trophies for championships, blah, blah, blah. And one year he read that, hey, all carbs are evil. Okay, was there any scientific backing behind it? So just because of that one article, he would say, "Hey, I'm just gonna only eat meat from now on, right? No more fruits, no more vegetables, no bread, only bacon, steak, chicken." At first, he thought he was doing great, but a few months later, he might start feeling tired, grumpy, malnourished, right? And then doctors told him he had vitamin deficiencies. Turns out sometimes your body needs a little bit more than just meat, right? Might need vitamins, they might need fiber, minerals. And again, I'm not saying what diet is correct. I am not a doctor. I am not a nutritionalist. I'm just simply saying everybody's body is different. So it's up to you to decide, hey, when I see something, instead of just saying, no, that's not it, or huh, just say, huh, right? Don't just say no or yes. Just say, huh, that's what I'm suggesting you to do, right? You can't, usually you get the truth when using all the right pieces, right? Not just one piece. So don't just take one piece of information that you get from one person as a truth. Learn to figure out how to go for it, right? Let's come up with an analogy where that even kids want. Let's talk about like, hey, look, how the world tricks us into believing lies, right? It's just rumors, it's stories. How about when you're at school lunch, right? I kind of remember this, right? When I was in elementary school, someone said, "Hey, don't swallow chewing gum because if you swallow chewing gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years. And everybody believed it. And I think it's not true because I think some doctors have told me that, hey, gum passes through your system just like any other food. But because everyone repeated it, including my parents, it sounded true. But no one ever challenged it, right? It's kind of like when you play the telephone game. By the time the message reaches the last person, it's totally wrong. And if you believe everything you hear without checking, you might end up believing that this, and I'm not sure, right? I haven't researched this. Maybe you end up believing that gum lives in your tummy forever, even when it's not true. So you need a system, right? Not just opinions for finding truth. So Ty, this is the framework that I learned from him, right? Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So the thesis is typically your idea number one. Antithesis is your opposite idea, number two. And the synthesis is when you combine the best of both. So think about, I mean, this happens in politics every day, right? There's Republicans that want small government, there's Democrats that want big government. Again, I'm oversimplifying things, right? This is not just what they stand for. But the truth, right? Maybe the best policy or type of policy might be somewhere in the middle, right? You want some smart rules, but maybe not so many smart rules or so many rules or so much regulation, right? That doesn't make sense anymore. Again, you have to figure it out. You have to figure out why is one side saying this thing and why is one side saying, I'm not political. The point is, I want to teach my kids how to figure out what they're listening to and how to act upon what they're receiving, the information, and just go, huh, right? Because you have to understand the polar opposites, those are tend to be the loudest voices, and those are what attracts attention. Think about the 39 triggers we talked about, right? The controversy bias, right? You get people's attention when you have controversy. But understand, maybe not the whole world needs to be all the way on one side or the other, right? It's just if you're a kid, right, you're making a peanut butter jelly sandwich. If you only use peanut butter, sometimes it's a little dry. If you only use jelly, sometimes it's a little wet, a little too sweet, it's a mess. But together, you got a perfect peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I think of that as the truth, right? The truth is usually just is the sandwich, not just one side. So sometimes following extreme advice might not be the best approach, right? You might hear someone says, "Oh, work 100 hours a week, never date until you're rich." Then you're going to miss out in your 20s, right? Especially in your 20s. So many experiences, so many memories when you are in physically the best shape of your life, right? Some say don't have a kid until you are successful. Well, sometimes it's biologically impossible for people to have kids past a certain age, or it gets extremely risky on their life, right? Just there's so many things out there. Just be careful, right? Just figure out how do you tell which one is right. Usually, I mean, the truth, people are typically balanced, right? The happiest folks, the most fulfilled folks, they're balanced. It's almost as if you're riding a bicycle, right? You lean too far to one side, you're kind of gonna crash. But if you stay centered, you're gonna move a lot faster. So let's talk about how do you want to handle confusing advice about money. You're gonna hear that all millionaires or multimillionaires have 7, 8 different streams of income, making this up. Start 5 businesses. Then you also hear people say, hey, only focus on one. And I like this approach that I learned, which is focus on one business at a time. Once it's running smoothly, then maybe you add another once you can replace yourself. Either you sell the business off, either you hire a CEO or COO to replace yourself so that you're only working minimally, or maybe you become the person that just has the idea and is great at marketing. You're a great visionary. And you are very clear upfront with your partner that, hey, I'm looking for someone where I come with the idea and I do no work. You handle all the operations, right? You set the expectation up front, that might be different, right? Think about Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos built Amazon, the bookstore, the online store first. Then he created Amazon Web Services, right? Once that was successful, then he bought Whole Foods, right? Think about it. Learn to juggle one ball before you throw in two, right? Or you're just gonna drop everything. Just be very, very thoughtful about it. Now, here's a nice shortcut to truth. Sometimes it's just easier to find out what's definitely wrong, right? This is called inversion, right? Everyone agrees that when you eat too much junk food, you only eat fast food, it's kind of bad for you. It's going to lead to a lot of problems, cardiac health issues, I mean, everything. If you spend more than you earn, that will make you broke. Go figure. If you only sleep 3 hours a night, that's definitely going to ruin your health. So that's way too little sleep. So sometimes if you don't know where to start, you're in paralysis. Just learn to avoid the obvious mistakes. Just avoid it, right? Sometimes when you're running a race, you might not have to be the fastest. If you just learn how to not trip over the hurdles that everyone else ignores, right? Or the obstacles and just do take them completely wrong way. I mean, some people say, hey, never eat sugar. I've gotten that advice before. Hey, maybe a little sugar is okay if you eat most healthy food, right? Because you got to think about the life you want to live. Hey, maybe you're okay with a little bit of sugar, just a very little bit, right? If you mostly eat healthy food like fruits and vegetables, that might be good for you. Have a little fun, experience life. Now, even in, let's talk about some examples. Even in baseball, right? Some coaches would say, hey, swing hard, right? Some others would say, hey, play it safe, try to get the walk. Sometimes you might swing smart. Sometimes you might throw down a bunt, right? In baseball, it just depends on the situation. You got to figure out. Someone says, hey, always trust people. Sometimes they never trust anyone. I mean, just maybe you want people to earn trust slowly, right? Good friends are made by building trust over time, not instantly believing or doubting everyone, right? Just like if you were planting a tree, you got to water it a little bit every day. You don't just dump a swimming pool of water on it on day one, or you ignore it completely. Just not how it works. So you got to think about it, right? You got to have great frameworks. Think about it, right? Let's just make an extreme example. Let's say you have a really, really smart kid at school. His name was Bob, right? Everyone knew that he was the smartest. He always finished the test in half out of time, and then he got all A's. But during a contest one time, Bob just raced ahead. He solved all the problems really fast, right? Because he was trying to live up to his reputation of finishing the test in half the time. But he made some silly mistakes this time. But then you had another quiet kid. Let's say his name was Joey, right? He did something very different. He didn't try to be the fastest, but he had a framework or a strategy where he said, hey, you know what? For every single answer, I'm going to double check that answer. And guess what? Joey won a contest. Even though Bob had a higher IQ, Joey won because he had a better framework. So sometimes it's not just about having the smartest brain, it's about having the better plan. So, better frameworks usually mean smarter habits, right? Smarter steps. So before you rush a decision, I really want my kids to think about a few things. Like, think about the question that you asked. Hey, what is the one thing I might be missing? Just one thing, so that you are at least progressing your thought process. And also ask yourself, hey, what would someone smarter than me double check here? Hmm. And am I making sure, or am I assuming something? Right? This helps you slow down a little bit, just a little bit, build that framework, and chances are you're going to be very precise in how you make decisions, right? You can't build a tree house, let's say, right? Rush in and just nail the board everywhere, right? If you have one kid that just comes in and nail the board everywhere and not even checking the wood, maybe you use raw wood, right? Versus another kid, they might draw a simple plan first, right? Make sure they end up with the coolest design, make sure they know how to check the wood for quality to make sure it's not rotten. And all of a sudden, not only has a better design, but he also had the most sturdy treehouse. So when you have smart frameworks, those usually outlast smart brains. So please, 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 whatever you do, study both sides. Sometimes you might just end up merging the best ideas from both sides, right? And when you're in doubt, just avoid what everyone agrees is just plain silly. And as you get better, right, build those frameworks, help yourself understand, like, hey, how, if I ever make a mistake, or what is the lesson I learned from here? Build that framework, modify that framework so you can start to at least outthink people who might just be smarter on paper. I hope this is helpful for everybody. I know it came up with some analogies that could be improved, to say the least. So leave a comment down below if you have better analogies. But I thought this was just really important lesson for me to leave for my kids, because, and all of our kids, to be frankly, to be honest, because you get fed information every single day. You're scrolling, and every single time you scroll, you get subconsciously program something that's led to influence you, right? They're going to put a thought into your brain. How do you catch yourself in that thought and just challenge yourself, like, hey, what is the opposite of this? What is the one thing I can do to check this information, and go from there, right? This is not an investment. It's not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm just trying to become a better dad. And I really have a sense of urgency to leave these words behind, because what if my day came earlier than I expected, right? We all, for some reason, we all have this thought that, hey, we have more time than we do, because honestly, tomorrow is never guaranteed. And if I don't spend this time putting away this message and telling my family that I love them, because I do, what better way to tell them that you love them than just to leave behind the most important lessons that you've learned, the most important relationships that you created. This is what life is about. It's about creating great relationships, getting all information so that you can set your kids further ahead. And they will thank you. I hope you all copy this idea, put it in your own words, and start your own YouTube channel, because it's not about it's not about doing this for followers. I mean, we all say we do this for our kids, and but why not record something like this for our kids? I'm very confident that if one day my kids are watching this and for some reason I'm not there, know that I did this out of love. And I hope you all do it out of love for your own family too. Hey, thank you so much. All right. Have an amazing day. I hope you all spend some quality time with your family and friends today, because that's what life is all about. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 577, I believe. Have a good one, everybody.